In this assignment, you are going to learn a few of the math functions in Google Sheets. So if we go up to our toolbar and click on functions, you'll notice there are many different types of functions. One category of functions is math, and again in here, just for math alone, you'll see all of these functions. So we're going to use just a few of these today, but there are many more that we will not be using. If you're looking at the spreadsheet, you'll notice in column A, I have the directions for each of the problems. And in each row, I have numbers that we're going to use. So we'll start in cell A1, and it says format cells B1, and then you see colon G1 as currency. So first of all, we need to figure out what this colon means in a spreadsheet. So if we do a Google search and we type in what do colons mean in a spreadsheet, it tells us the colon tells Excel, or in this case, Google Sheets, to include all cells between the two endpoint cell references. So what that means is all the cells between B1 and G1 would be included because we have that colon. So that would mean we would include C1, D1, E1, and F1. So the first thing we're going to do is click and drag from cell B1 to G1, and up here in the left-hand corner, you should see B1 colon G1. We need to format it for currency. So on your toolbar, you'll see this $sign and it says format as currency. If you click on that, then it will go ahead and change all these to currency. Now we need to find the sum of them. And the sum of them, it says find the sum of B1 to G1, and we want to put that in cell H1. So that is this light green colored cell. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. We could click on cell H1 and then go to functions, and we could go to math, and we could go down to sum. It's in alphabetical order. So you could find sum, and now it's asking on my formula bar, what do you want to add up? So I can then click and drag B1 to G1. So the formula or the function is equal sum of B1 to G1, and then hit enter. And that's the number you'd get. So that's one way of doing it. Another way, and depending on how your data is set up, this may or may not work. But I'm going to click and drag from B1 to G1, and then after I've highlighted those, then I'm going to go over to functions and math, and then to sum, and then you'll notice it filled that in for me because I already showed the data set that I wanted to use, and then I can hit enter. The last way, of course, is to just type it in yourself, type it in manually, and that would be equals sum, put a parenthesis, B1 colon G1, and another parenthesis, and then hit enter. All of those are the same formula, or the same function. There's just different ways of putting them in. So that would be row number 1. In row 3, it tells us to subtract cell C3 from B3 and put our function for this in cell D3. So we're subtracting 40.66 from 596.21. So to do this, our function is going to be the minus function. So if I were to type that in, equals minus, and minus is the difference of two numbers, and then I want to subtract, I'm going to take cell B1 first, and I'm going to subtract cell C3 from that. So equals minus B3 C3, and make sure that you have that comma in there, and then hit enter. And if you came up with 555.55, that means you have the correct answer. In row 5, it says divide cell B5 by cell C5. So I'm taking 3,885 and I'm dividing it by 7. So to divide, I'm looking for the quotient. So we can start typing that in. And quotient is one number divided by another without the remainder. So I want to divide this number, so B5, comma, and you'll notice when I do that, this green box kind of goes over where I want to click. So I can't click C5, it's not letting me. So I can just type that in. So on my formula bar, C5, and then put a parenthesis and hit enter. So now we're moving down to row 7, and row 7 says find the answer to cell B7 to the power of C7. Put your answer in D7. So when you're using a power function, what that basically means is, again, we're trying to find B7 to the power of C7. So 4 to the third power would be 4 times 4 times 4. That's what that means. If it's if it's squared or to the power of 2, it'd be 4 times 4. 4 to the fourth power would be 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. So in this instance, we're just going to find 4 to the power of 3. So I'm going to put my cursor in cell D7, and my function is going to be equals power and a number raised to a power. Our number is 4, and we're raising it to the power of 3. So 4, comma, or excuse me, cell B7, comma, C7, parenthesis, and then enter. So 4 to the third power, or 4 cubed, is 64. In row number 9, it says change cells B9 through G9 into a percentage with no decimal places. So let's do that first. B9 to G9, we need to go up to our our toolbar, and change them to a percent. So I click on percent, and when I do that, you'll see that it has 2 decimal places. It has a tenth and a hundredth. We want to get rid of both of those. So up on our toolbar, we're going to decrease our decimal places 2 times. 1, 2, and then we just have the percents. After that, it says find the average of these numbers, and we're going to put that in cell H9. And then we also need to make sure that's a percentage without decimals. So again, I can click on H9 and I can type in equals average, or I can click and drag from cell B9 to G9. So after you have cells B9 through G9 selected, then we're going to look for our average function. So if you go to the top, usually average is at the very top. So we'll go ahead and click on average, and we have equals average of B9 to G9, and then we can hit enter. And it says in the directions, make sure this number, make this number a percentage without decimals. Well, it already defaulted to a number without decimals, so we're all set there. Okay, moving down, we are now on row 11. So let me adjust my spreadsheet. Okay, so row 11 says add cells B11 to F11. Put the sum of these cells in G11, and then round the value in G11 and place the answer in H11. So we're going to round up the value after we find it. So again, I'm going to click and drag over B11 to F11, and then I'm going to go to functions, sum, hit enter, and then you'll see in G11 I have my answer of 37.06. Now I'm going to round that, and I'm going to use the round up function. So if I want to click in cell H11, and my formula is going to be equals round, and if I type in round, you can see I can round it up, or I can round it down. We want to round up, and then it's asking what do we want to round up. We want to round up G11 and put a parenthesis and enter. So when we round 37.06, when we round it up, it rounds it up to 38 because it is above 37. In row 13, it says enter a function in cell B13 that will display a random number between 1 and 100. So to do this, I'm going to click in cell B13, and then we need to find a random number function. So if I go up to my functions, I'll go down to math, and let's go down to the R's, and I have rand between. So this says random integer between 2 values. So if I click on that, I need to enter the 2 values. So the first value is going to be 1, and then I need a comma. The second value is going to be 100, and then I can hit enter. And when I do that, In cell B13, it should give me a random number between 1 and 100, and my random number was 81. Yours will probably be different. So if you have all of these green squares filled in, these green cells filled in, and you have the proper function in each one of them, you may go ahead and submit your assignment.